Big Hollywood movies are fraught with costs. Story rights, camera equipment, studio space, actors, even the right to shoot in a specific location, like a famous restaurant, has a cost. Accurate costing is critical to a studio's success because it helps them to make decisions such as what type of films to produce in the future, how much to charge for a DVD, and even to figure out if a director is keeping to a film's budget while it's being made. Cost accounting involves the measuring, recording, and reporting of product costs. From this data, companies can determine both the total cost and the unit cost of each product. There are two basic types of cost accounting systems: a job order cost system and a process cost system. Under a job order cost system, a company like a movie studio or an independent self-financed filmmaker assigns costs to each job, or in this case, each movie produced. An important feature of job order costing is that each job or batch has its own distinguishing characteristics. It measures costs for each completed job rather than for set time periods. Heidi Van Leer knows a lot about film costs. She's not only a programmer for the annual Slam Dance Film Festival in Park City, Utah, but an independent filmmaker herself.
Production costs, on a studio production, they're really used to spending a lot of money on everything. In independent film, I usually just try and feed my crew, pay for my equipment, pay for stock, and that's about it.
Companies that manufacture large volumes of similar products use a process cost system, which accumulates product-related costs for a period of time, such as a quarter or year, and assigns them to specific departments or processes. Job order costing is more precise in assignment of costs to projects than process costing. However, recording the information is time-consuming. Just the same, it isn't unusual for a company to use both systems. For example, Jones Soda practices process costing when manufacturing soda, but uses job order costing when producing small custom orders for its My Jones program. Studios today must be more budget conscious than ever. That means maintaining a good job order cost flow. The flow of costs, direct materials, direct labor, and manufacturing overhead, in job order cost accounting parallels the physical flow of the materials as they are converted into finished goods. While a film is produced, the studio accumulates production costs through accurate record keeping and assigns those costs to the account for each film as a work in process. When the film is finished, they transfer the cost of the film to finished goods inventory. Later, when the film is sold or distributed, they transfer the costs for that film to cost of goods sold, so that they can compare costs to the final revenues of the film to determine their profit. Not all costs can be easily attributed to one section of the flow of materials. Overhead costs, like studio executive office space, cannot be assigned to specific jobs on the basis of actual costs incurred. Instead, companies assign costs to a work in process and to specific jobs on an estimated basis through the use of a predetermined overhead rate. In general, companies across industries establish the predetermined overhead rate at the beginning of the year. Small companies often use a single company-wide predetermined overhead rate. Large companies often use rates that vary from department to department. The formula for a predetermined overhead rate is as follows: estimated annual overhead costs divided by expected annual operating activity equals predetermined overhead rate. Overhead relates to production operations as a whole. To know what the whole is, the logical thing is to wait until the end of the year's operations. At that time, the studio knows all of its costs for the period. As a practical matter, though, managers cannot wait until the end of the year. To price products accurately, they need information about product costs of specific jobs completed during the year. Using a predetermined overhead rate enables a cost to be determined for the job immediately. Job order costing can be fairly straightforward in certain manufacturing situations, but how costs are assigned to a movie is often complex and may be subject to disagreement. For example, in Hollywood, studios often negotiate producer, director, and actor payments based on a percentage of a film's gross revenues. As a movie garners larger box office grosses, it is not uncommon to see the various players fighting over what they perceive to be their fair share. Filmmaking has changed greatly in the last half-century. Before the 1970s, it was nearly impossible to do a film outside of a major studio. Technology has changed all that. But even with new distribution channels like cable networks and the internet, the overwhelming supply of material has reduced the price studios can pay for any individual film. The financial success of films, both great and small, is dependent upon the practice of careful cost accounting.
Got it. Thank you, Jane.